Adhocracy.
All right, I just hit record. Boom, we're live. Okay, so welcome to the Adhocracy podcast, Dalton.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is just a little project of mine that I've been thinking about doing for quite a while, and I'm excited to have my friends on. And yeah, so you and I have done a lot of obstacle course racing. And I was curious if you could talk about what got you into it. I know Jeff had something to do with it. And is that all that it was?
Well, I had done a lot of running when I was in high school. I did track and cross country, so a lot of 5Ks, did some 10Ks in college, and stuck with the running. But when I got out of college, I didn't really have a reason to run, no group to run with. And when we first joined the same group at work, you were talking about all these tough mudders and how much fun it is to get out there and get muddy. And I'm like, no. I don't want to go out and get shocked and have to do all these upper body obstacles. I'm just a runner. And Jeff and I started working together and went on a trip to do some training. And during that trip, he convinced me that it was a good idea to do this obstacle course race.
So what was it that he was able to, like, what was the moment where you switched from going mud bad to mud maybe?
I don't remember the exact moment. I think we were just in a car ride out to training. We were did a run together. And after that run, we were talking about, what we wanted to do, and just convinced me that to give it a shot. Because he talked about,
right?
Yeah, he did the one with you and talked about how much fun it was, and just, running together, doing it as a group. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I can give that a shot. You guys can help me out on some of the stuff that I'm going to be weaker at.
So when you were running in high school and college, you ran cross country, right?
Cross country, yeah. I did track as well. So cross country was running 5Ks, and I actually went to state for the 5K.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
you destroy running.
And then in track, I would run the mile at the track meets, and then about 45 minutes later, turn around and run the 2 mile.
So did you never have any weather that you had to deal with, like when you were doing cross country specifically?
Washington weather, it rains, it gets wet.
But you never had like muddy courses or anything like that?
Not the type of mud you were talking about.
No. Okay.
Where it's just, this thick mud, rolling mud, obstacles, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was more, hey, I'm in spikes, and that helps me get traction on those slippery courses.
Yeah, makes sense. Did you do many? Well, we're in Washington here. Did many of the courses have the hills?
Oh yeah. We had some decent hills. There's a course down in Stillicum that I really liked. We ended up running that 3 times a year, or 3 times during the season. So you got a good idea of how you're progressing throughout the season, which was really, really neat. Good way to track our progress.
Were you able to train?
That had a pretty decent hill for it.
Were you able to train on hills too?
Yeah. So we do hill sprints, hill repeat workouts. There was a nice short hill that right behind the school, and then going down to so I grew up in Olympia and lived on the west side of Olympia, and would run down to the lake and then back up, and that's got a pretty decent hill there too.
Nice. I know that most of our trail running, at least, is at Lord Hill right now, and there's plenty of hills there. So.
Oh yeah.
So once you did the first Tough Mudder, I forget how many of us were there for your first Mudder. Wasn't it like 4 or 5 of us? I feel like.
Yeah, because it was yourself. This is 2016, I want to say. I think yourself, Jeff, me. This is the one your wife ran, because this is her first one. Yeah. And
Oh yeah, this was the orange t-shirt one.
One of your family friends, yeah.
Yeah, and then Kaylee and
Andrew,
Alan.
Yeah, I never remember. Terrible with
British
names.
guy.
Yes, that one. And that was a blast. That was a lot of fun. You know, there are some obstacles I didn't like. The obvious ones like
The electric
the
ones.
Arctic enema and the electric one, electroshock therapy. But they weren't too bad. They weren't enough to scare me off. And after that, you had talked about the Spartans as well, and because you had run a couple at that point, and we had all decided, hey, you know, let's sign up for the Spartan in April and run that. And so we started training, we started getting ready for it, went to go run that race, and for some reason we decided to sign up for the full trifecta for the season.
Did we?
Signed up to run Montana as well. Before
Did we run
even
Montana the first? I don't remember running.
Yeah, we did.
I'm glad to say we did, because Montana is a fantastic course.
I love it. Course. Well, I bring it up because we ran Seattle in April, and you know that course in April is terrible.
It's a slop fest.
Yeah, it's right after 2 weeks of heavy rain. All the obstacles are wet, and so all the upper body stuff we end up slipping off of. We ended up doing, because we split the burpees on that race, right?
Yeah, because we were still running as team.
We ended up doing, 160, 180 burpees?
Too many.
Yeah.
More than I care to admit.
I was dead by the end of that. And I didn't want to run another Spartan because it was just felt so miserable. Being
at the end of that,
being cold.
At the end of that, were you more depressed at the end of your first Spartan or first Tough Mudder? Sounds like Spartan.
Spartan at that point. The Tough Mudder was interesting. I was glad I had done it at that point. The Spartan, I just felt miserable. I was like, why am I out here doing this? And then we went to Montana because we had already paid for it. We already put together this trip, and that was just a couple weeks later.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Went to Montana, and this is the beginning of May, and we did great. I think we failed like one obstacle each, and that was it. We were still pretty new to the spear throw, and so I think we failed those. And maybe one of us hit it, got lucky.
I think Jeff got it, if I remember right.
Yeah,
and of course lorded it over us.
Oh yeah, that's right. The April race in Seattle. That's where Jeff almost lost his finger on the rope climb.
Oh, that's right. Fell from the top. Oh man, that was.
And so he was concerned about it, Montana. Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
That was just a fun trip in general. What was it? It was the three of us that went out there, took the drive out. And...
Yes, that time it was just the three of us. Went to McKenzie River. We did the Guinness Book of World Records for the most people doing 30 burpees at the same time.
Oh man, was that year?
I'm pretty sure. I have that. I still have that
right.
Hanging in my garage. That little thing they gave us, that little like cardboard piece of paper that had your number. It's kind of lame, but you put it up on the wall, and it's a good memory. So
well, our record lasted 6 months before it got beaten by another group.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, by the time we went back the next year, it had already been beaten.
Oh gosh, that's ridiculous. You need to hold on to these records longer.
Yeah. Huh. After that Montana race, that kept me interested, and I think we did another race in the Seattle race in September that year.
Which Montana race did we do? The Beast? I feel like we did.
Yeah, it must have been the Beast.
That's right, because we did the Beast, and then the next day was the Sprint. And I remember looking back as we were driving away, and like this wind, rainstorm, and cold front had moved in.
Oh yeah, there's a thunderstorm or something that
all the
rolled
people
in
were
after we finished.
Stuck on the hill, and we're like waving goodbye, like so long, suckers. Yeah, that was that was a good trip. That was a really good trip. But then, so if we did the trifecta, that means that in September we just ran the Sprint, I guess, or no, that's the year we did Portland, right?
Yeah, we must have done Portland that year. Man, I
if
don't
it
remember.
was.
I
And
had to go back and look at my
we had
records.
Eric with us that time, and that was the happy little burpees. That's got to be one of the better team names we come up with. So
Yeah.
except of course for Muddy Pythons. That was a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did 1 year of running everything as
We
a
ran everything
team.
together, right?
And then at the end of the year, I remember, we'd sit down and have those end of year celebrations at Diamond Knot. And I remember wanting to try a few of them as individuals. And I remember getting some long looks from you guys, like, what the hell are you thinking?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of resistance to something like that. Um, I think Jeff especially. I was on the fence, if I recall correctly. But you convinced us. We gave it a shot.
Well, because I went for kind of a halfway approach where it was like, all right, we're going to pick certain races where we still run together as a team, hang out, have fun. But then there's also going to be some where we really push ourselves. And I have to admit, that year, it really changed my approach. I think it changed all of our approaches, honestly.
Yeah. We really started ramping up the training. That was what, the 2018 season? It must have been.
I think it would have to be. I
think 2017 was our first year of Spartans.
I don't remember exactly. I remember because we had the one group year, we had an individual year, then the year that we all really pushed.
And yeah, that was 2019. Because that's when I got the season pass.
That's right.
Really started going for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was I remember training for the individual, like I remember really going at it, and I don't know, it was good. It took a lot of time though. I was shocked with, like, really, Spartan is one of those events where you're really having to balance your cardio and your strength and your endurance.
Yeah.
Which I think is fantastic. It's an excellent full body. It's a good reason to keep your full body in good shape, as opposed to, just running like you did. But I don't know. I feel like that was really good. And then, yeah, when you got your upper body and your grip strength figured out, like when you got the multi-rig and the Herc hoist with lifting that bag on the pulley,
right?
Once you had those sorted out, you just started destroying courses.
Yeah, it took some.
I was so proud.
Effort. Well, I had a good team. You put together great training plans.
Yeah,
get us out there every Tuesday and Thursday. And
I think a lot of it too was just kind of establishing, like, getting the baseline, and that really came from doing it as a group. That first year, well, I guess 2 years, first with the Tough Mudder and then with the Spartans, but just kind of establishing a routine and then wanting to grow from that and wanting to be like, okay, this is fun and we are having fun, but I think we could push ourselves a little more.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think we did a decent job at it. I mean, looking back, hindsight's always 2020. And it's like, man, I wish we could have tweaked it here, started yoga sooner so that we didn't, specifically myself. I don't know. I feel like I kept running into issues and I'm still dealing with them now. But yeah, I feel like we did a decent job, and on a low budget, Matt, I add.
Yeah.
That was great.
We did a good job simulating the obstacles, the events that we'd run into, getting the buckets of rocks and the sandbags and the pull-up bars all put together, the sled drag.
Yep.
That was all good.
It was all under budget.
Yeah. And then happened to put together, a spear and target and start practicing that.
Yeah. I love how that
took a while.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
It took a while to figure out what we were doing.
Once we got it though, we were doing pretty well, and I was having a lot of fun. Was really disappointed. I mean, and we were, God, COVID really wrecked it for everybody. My hernia ruined it for me. which that was right when everyone was getting ready to ramp up to a marathon, right?
Yeah. Well, so 2019, I don't remember exactly what your plans were, but for me, that's when bought the season pass and really started traveling.
Yeah, like around the country.
I went to almost all of the California races, went to Montana, went to the Seattle races, went to West Virginia, and actually qualified for the elite races in some of them. Oh, and nationals. Went to nationals for age group that year. Almost qualified for Tahoe, and that was the year that we ran that downhill marathon.
Wasn't that the year that Jeff qualified for nationals, but you didn't?
Yes.
It was weird. What was the thing? Because was it a points thing, or what was it on that?
I don't remember exactly what happened.
It was hilarious, though.
I have to go back and look. It was silly.
Yeah.
Because I actually went to the nationals race and he didn't, but yet somehow he got the email that qualified him.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, honestly, and they're changing the rules on that pretty much. I mean, and I think they've got to, every year they're going to have it more and more nailed down, so there's less oddities like that. But that was weird.
Yeah.
And Jeff, honestly, if you listen to this, Jeff, don't worry. I don't think you're unworthy. I was the unworthy one. And I think, and Kevin somehow qualified that time too, didn't he? And it was like, you all qualified except for me.
He qualified. He didn't want to go that year. He was starting to ramp down from his heavy training. And
that's right.
I came into it. I came out of the marathon in August, beginning of August of 2019 with an injury. And so going to nationals, I actually wasn't able to compete at the level I wanted to. I'd messed up my IT band on that downhill marathon we did. Well, some of us did.
Yeah, some of us.
Some of us are training for.
Yeah.
But it took a while to recover. And I probably was good enough at Tahoe. I just wasn't certain I was going to be able to actually perform the way I wanted to. So Jeff and I ended up running that together. It was a fun experience. It was cold.
Yeah, I remember that year that was a miserable year. I mean, Tahoe has had some miserable years, but I feel like that one was pretty close to taking the cake from what I've seen on the replays.
Well, for us, we ran it without the snow. So it was just really,
well, that's
it was
right,
clear skies and cold and windy. But then that as we were leaving, the snowstorm rolled in. And so the elites race and the age group race that I would have run was the following day. And they actually got delayed because of the snow and didn't run until they were supposed to leave in the morning. They didn't leave until the afternoon almost.
That's right. It kept getting delayed because they had, wasn't it a wind delay?
It was. They couldn't get the volunteers on course. It was the snow and ice.
Was that what it was? Oh my God.
To man the events.
That's crazy.
And then they actually closed some of the water obstacles because of hypothermia concerns, at least in the open heat.
Yeah, I mean, and here we are talking about this. I know Jeff, if he was here, he'd want to talk about his New Jersey one where they closed down the water obstacles and like half the race dropped out for hypothermia.
Yeah. No, they closed it after he did it. They waited for him to get through.
Exactly. Is Jeff through? All right, we're good. Close it up.
But that, I mean, I'm glad we did Tahoe. That was the last year that they had the championship race there, the world championship. And because it was supposed to be in Dubai last year in 2020.
Yeah. And that was a bold move. I mean, I realize that Spartan wants to be a worldwide sport. And I really do think that by and large they are, but when your primary customer base is US based, that's, I'm not saying it's a bad move, but it's a very bold move. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at it But I talked to Kevin, I talked to Jeff. You weren't running at that point, and neither one of them were interested in traveling to that race. And I really didn't want to travel alone, so I wasn't planning on running it. And then everything got shut down anyway, so there really was no season. It would have been a tough race.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, now you're running in sand dunes and in the heat.
Yeah, and it would have, well, I'm assuming the majority of the course would have been on sand. I'm sure they have some roads that they would have put some stuff on, but
yeah,
or maybe some hard packed ground. But yeah, that's quite the swing from Tahoe. Quite the swing.
Yes, it is.
So now that we've kind of talked about a bit of our history anyways, do you think you're going to stick with Spartan once we come out of all this? Because I mean, they've done a good job of making sure that everyone, if you had purchased a race, you still are able to use that same credit at an upcoming race if you want to. I mean, it is a little bit of, internet paperwork, so to speak.
Yeah.
But they've done a good job of, if you are still wanting to do it and you want to save the money, that you're able to continue the races. And I know you're signed up, but I mean, to get to the point where we got to last time and where you started really destroying the courses was a pretty long journey for you.
Yeah, and I feel like I've lost a year of training.
Oh, at least.
Just because of I wasn't doing anything. I had no reason to train, and it's disappointing. So I came into 2020 with another season pass, expecting to ramp up even further from where I was at in 2019, try to get into some of the elite races and really start competing at that level. And only went to basically 2 races last year. I went to one in California in January, another one in February, and then everything shut down.
Yeah.
So that was disappointing. Now that season pass is still applicable for 2021. They extended it through this year. Half the seasons, well, they may have had some races. I haven't been paying that much attention.
I just looked, and they have the soonest upcoming race that I could find was down in Las Vegas at the end of this month.
Okay. But yeah, I wouldn't really do any Spartan races until the summer at the rate we're at, just because there's just, to me, there's too much risk. There's a lot of people going through those courses.
It's a weird thing because I mean, specifically even Spartan, because I mean and they are going to try their best to reduce the crowds milling around at the event center, and they'll probably have stuff spread out a bit at the start, maybe smaller waves, something like that, temperature checks, all that. But at the end of the day, you do not, I mean, if you're wearing a mask, that would just, that would be that would be an obstacle itself, having to wear a mask the whole course. But yes, I mean, at the end of the day, you're just a bunch of people breathing on the same course with each other, and it's all day. A breeding ground for COVID.
Yeah. So Spartan sent out some of their recommendations for what they were going to do to address COVID, and I agree. I mean, they were doing the correct thing, right? They were doing the social distancing. They were only letting the athletes into the venue, doing temperature checks, all that stuff you talked about, smaller waves. But I still, even with all those measures, I still wasn't comfortable signing up to compete. Yeah. And it's just unfortunate because
it's just the type of the event that it is.
Yeah.
Did they have any kind of like the first, or those first 2 races you did in 2020, like especially that second race, did they have any procedures in place at that time, or was it all still just kind of?
No, it was still just the normal thing we normally do. There was talks of it, but there was nothing at the Spartan level that they were directing anyone to do. No social distancing, none of that stuff. And that really didn't hit for us until March.
Right. Yeah.
For Washington State, for the country, where we just started shutting everything down.
Yeah. But so, I mean, that's going to be interesting because I mean, I don't know, like I'm going to be very interested to see how Mr. Joe DeSena gets that all up and running again, because I mean, that's the amount of crew, because I mean they have a lot of volunteer support, and I mean I've gone out and volunteered at these races before, and it's fun. It's a good experience to, you know, help people check in or go set up the course. The one time I set up the course, I actually got to set it up with Steve Hammond, Trailmaster Hammond, and that was that was a lot of fun. But I mean, the amount of people that are needed to do this, I mean, I'm assuming most of those people, you know, over this course of a time, you need to go find something else to do to bring in that income.
Yeah.
And I don't know if everyone, I mean, I don't know. I haven't reached out to anyone within Spartan to ask this. And I suppose I don't know. I don't know if I even could. That'd be a weird thing. But I haven't heard about, you know, how that'll be handled. Because I mean, you basically need to get all those people back and just be able to just at the drop of a hat go. And the expectation will be not only are the courses up and running with the quality obstacles that they had before, but now you're also doing all these extra COVID steps as well. And I think that's going to be a real challenge.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, I agree.
It's going to be interesting to see how they handle it. I think the first race I was signed up to do this year was Montana. I don't think my back will be ready for that, but I think, I mean, maybe I might be able to do the sprint out there. I don't know, but I know that all of us just kind of bailed on that, and I probably just need to take my credit and push it out to some other time. But my target right now is either doing a September Spartan or the Tough Mudder.
Yeah, September sounds, at the rate we're going with the vaccinations, with getting out of this pandemic, September seems reasonable, and we should sign up.
Well, I'm already signed up. So that weekend I'm signed up for, gosh, I've never done this before. I know you have, but doing I think it's the sprint the super in the morning and then the sprint in the afternoon, 2 races one day.
Oh yeah.
And I had never done that. I've done the one race in one day and then come back the next day, and I didn't like that at all, honestly. But doing 2 races in one day, I think sounds better.
Yeah. So I've done the trifecta weekends before, where you go out, you do the beast, and the next day you do the super and the sprint. And you just treat the sprint as just a short cool down run. I mean, you can compete. I think the way they have it set up now, you can't sign up for the competitive heats for the second race just because of the timing. Because you have to go out and re-register, do your registration to pick up your packet, and then come back in. Jeff and I think we did a super and then a trail race, a 10K in Seattle.
I remember
back
that.
to back.
Yeah,
and that was a quick one. I think I finished, grabbed my stuff, got the registration, and just as they were filling the heat and packing it up,
just in time.
Yep. But I mean, it's one way to make sure you finish on time on the first race. Motivation,
go.
You spent that $100, $150 on the second race, and you better make it.
Yes, and actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this September I'm signed up for the competitive super, and then just an afternoon group non-competitive heat, because the idea is, you know, and who knows how this will all go, but you know, do something competitive in the morning, and then go get all the people who we're trying to convince to do Spartans with us to come and do a group one in the afternoon. So
yeah, the group ones work a lot better on the open heat. I know.
Yeah,
we tried to do that on one of the age group heats. Did not work out very well.
Oh my gosh, we'll run, and 15 minutes later we'll see it. So we just sat on the course and waved at all the heats of people that ran by. It was so weird. It was so weird, and it was bad. It was bad. It was bad. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna. I mean, if I have to pick between one or the other, because like I still really like the Tough Mudders. I know you've kind of moved beyond them because the, you know, those miserable obstacles.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like at the end of September, if like how I would prioritize that. I think it'll, you know, really depend on where I'm at, because Spartan is more physically demanding. And it's, you know, it's that way on purpose. And I think that it serves a good purpose. And it, you know, that when we when we switched our training mode from Tough Mudder to Spartan and then Spartan on a competitive basis, you know, those were some big jumps, because doing just the Tough Mudder, it was like, yeah, run around, you know, run for about a mile, do some push-ups, sit-ups, do some pull-ups under the stairs.
Yeah.
um, and then when it was Spartan, it was like, okay, well, we need to figure out lifting, we need to figure out pull-ups, we need to figure out a spear throw if possible, just for the group. So I mean, comparing the two, I mean, that's always been quite the debate of which one is better. But come September, I mean, I'd like to do them all. I mean, I love doing those things. Those things are great. Well, I guess I'll just have to see where I'm at that point. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
In my mind, the way I view the two races is Tough Mudder is more the team focused race, right? It's the group activity. They got more of those team obstacles that you got to do together, right? You can't get out of those mud troughs by yourself. You can't get over that rolling block in the water by yourself. And so it's all about, you know, a group activity, getting people up the wall, stuff like that.
Yeah, which I really like. I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
there was one of those,
it's a lot of fun.
There was one of those Tough Mudder promotional videos, and it was like a lot of times when I see promotional videos, it's like all I see is like, okay, they're targeting this, they're saying this so that they can get these people. It's just like, I'm pretty cynical when it comes to that kind of stuff. But like there was this one where it was like Tough Mudder, and it was like people helping people, and it was like the best of humanity was on the course. And it was like, you know, there's not many times I can say this, but I mean, like, I legitimately felt that, like being out there on the course and just like, you know, you see people just hanging out on top of that, you know, Block Ness monster, doing nothing but just helping people for like 5-10 minutes.
Yep.
Just hanging out, because it's not competitive.
Or the
it's just
guys
there for fun.
on the warped wall that are, you know, just lay there and help people get up the wall.
Yeah, helping people get up the wall by, you know, the poor guys up top are getting their arm sockets pulled out.
But you know, that's fun.
It is.
But what I'm enjoying more is the personal accomplishment of getting through the Spartan race and trying to go for, you know, get through in a certain time, get through burpee free, stuff like that, and competing with someone else. And
well, and when you do enough of them, you're competing with yourself too.
Right. And Tough Mudder, they do have, I guess, a competitive heat. We haven't run one of those, but in my view, in my mind, I still see it as a team event.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Me too. And I mean, they both serve their purposes. And I think, well, because I mean, Spartan bought Tough Mudder when was that? It was about a year ago now.
I think it's the end of 2019.
And I think that they, you know, Spartan fully, because Spartan and Tough Mudder were like in heavy competition with each other, but Spartan fully realized how important Tough Mudder is, because it's essentially entry level to OCR. And I mean, I have to admit, if it hadn't been for Tough Mudder, I never would have tried a Spartan. And I'm sure that there were enough people who said that when Spartan bought Tough Mudder, they were like, okay, you know, we finally, we don't have to compete anymore. Because I mean, it used to be down to like in Seattle, whoever booked their date first, the other organization would just book the same weekend to try and take away from that other organization. And now they're, you know, intentionally staggering the dates so that doesn't happen anymore. So you don't have to pick between the two, which that was always an interesting conversation to have amongst ourselves every year when they would land on the same date. Because me being me, I'm like, no, I want to do the Tough Mudder. And then, you know, you guys had gotten the itch for the competitive side, and we're like, yeah, I'm not doing Tough Mudder, we're going Spartan. So fortunately, I don't think we ever had a situation where we all had to like pick and we all went to different races that I'm aware of.
No, we,
Thankful for that.
we would run different heats of Spartan, but we always ran the same event
Yeah.
if we were together.
Yeah, that was good. But I'm interested to see if how much Spartan steals from Tough Mudder's obstacles, because one of the things that, and I know that, I've seen some electroshock stuff out there, and I know you're not
Oh,
excited about that.
oh man.
But the one thing that I really did like about Tough Mudder was like they were constantly trying new stuff and new obstacles. And Spartan did that to an extent, but with them being more competitive focused, they didn't want to branch out too much and then accidentally create like some kind of bottleneck on the course where
Yeah.
you've got, everyone, like, what was that one Tough Mudder obstacle where it was basically just crawling under a log that was really close to the ground, and it was like the line to crawl under the log close to the ground was like a 15-minute wait. It was like, come on, man. Like,
well, I remember the warped wall. I think our first year doing the Tough Mudder.
oh yeah,
We came out of the Block Ness Monster, out of the water. It was a typical Seattle day, gray, overcast, maybe 50s, and we stood there for 15, 20 minutes just waiting for our turn to go up the wall. And by that point, I'm skin and bones,
yeah.
I'm shivering, because I'm not moving. I'm not expending energy.
Yeah, and I think that they tried addressing that in different ways, which, that they had the one, I don't think you went that one year when they had the loop course where you run a 5 mile, the Tough Mudder had the 5 mile course twice. And that pissed me off because all I saw there was, some executive being like, well, why are we doing a 10-mile course? Let's just do a 5 mile course. And that we have half the setup. It's like, oh my gosh. It's like, it's tough.
Yeah.
It was such a different race. It was depressing. Because like you'd run by an obstacle and be like, okay, I'm doing this obstacle now, and then I'm doing that obstacle next time. And it wasn't really controlled. And it's, I mean, I'm not even worried about someone cheating on Tough Mudder, because that's entirely beside the point. But it still just had a really weird feeling of being like, okay, I have to come by this again. And that's the basic race that they've put out this time. So I was really, really glad that they only did that 1 year and got rid of it, because that was just depressing.
Now, Spartans, they do a similar thing. They have their 3 races that will share obstacles, the beast and the super and the sprint, but it's the race itself is a full course, right? They don't typically loop back on themselves except for the ultra, which
the ultra,
I wouldn't imagine someone setting up, a 50K.
Well, they've done a couple of them. They've done a couple of them that didn't loop. I remember seeing a couple. I know by and large, they basically they add a small section onto the beast course and then have you run everything twice.
And that I understand.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit more reasonable.
Well, when you're doing 30 miles and you're supposed to be going through the mountains and setting up all that, I mean, that's a long race, especially when, you got to work obstacles in there too. So
yeah,
that'd be a challenge. That would be a significant challenge to come up with just one course, which I mean, some of those races they had where they were like the ultras, like the Iceland one. Although I think wasn't Iceland just a looped course as well.
Yeah, it's like how many times you get through in 24 hours. That's how many loops you can do.
Yeah, because they basically stole that because Tough Mudder had the world's toughest, where they basically did the same thing. And then, I mean, when you're in Iceland, I mean, you want a smaller course just so you can keep track of your participants.
Yeah, makes it a little bit easier.
Man. So, and you're doing the what is it? Bigfoot?
Yeah.
40?
Bigfoot 40. So there's a couple different lengths that are available. There's a 100-mile course and a 200-mile course. I'm starting with the 40-mile. This is actually the furthest I've run. Kevin suggested it or found this last year, and we started training for it, but then things just didn't look like they would be good. And they actually canceled the race when it came time. but we signed up for it again this year. It should be fun. It's a loop around Mount St. Helens.
Yeah, and I mean that
So
sounds, because you guys hiked a lot of that same trail,
yeah,
right?
since the race was canceled, we decided to just hike it. So we went out in August of last year, came in at Windy Ridge, and did a 3-day hike clockwise around the mountain on the lower trail, and that
So
was fun.
how much of that trail would you actually be running on that race?
So of what we hiked, they're taking a different branch than we did on one of the sections. But other than that, we hiked all of it, which is nice. It gives good scouting. So at least I know what I'm
Yeah,
getting myself into, right? I know, okay, well, I'm going to come in and there's going to be boulder fields to get through. I have to look for, these posts, these waypoints to make my way across. There's really no defined trail in those sections. And then there's other areas where there's basically there's no water, and I have to know how much I'm going to consume during that portion. So there's a lot of what I'm liking about this course and preparing for it is figuring out the logistics. How much water am I going to carry? How fast am I going to go? How many calories am I going to carry? How I'm going to consume my calories? Um, how much gear am I going to carry? That's a big one that I'm still working through.
well, and you're buying like all that hyper light gear right now, right?
Yeah, so we picked up a running pack. Jeff and I got the same one. It's the Distance 4 Black Diamond running vest. So it's got 4 liters of carrying capacity in the back, in addition to the water. It's got 2 water bottles in the front, and then a bladder pouch in the back. And that's going to be just enough for this race. It's got 2 aid stations throughout the course, one at 12 mile and the next one at mile 26, I think, mile 28, something like that.
Jeez.
And then we get down to the finish at mile, I said it's 40 miles, it's really 43 and a half. And trying to figure out,
well,
how am I
run 40
get
miles,
through?
what's another 3, right?
Yeah, I know. And I'm looking at about 11 pounds right now. I picked up new rain gear. I picked up a personal locator beacon. I got new water bladders to fit within this pouch, and basically upgraded some of my gear, which, I'll use even if I don't run something like this again. I'll use for hiking,
Sure.
backpacking.
What's the intent behind the rain gear? Because there's a part of me that thinks you're going to be out there, and if it starts raining, I mean, unless it's an absolute deluge, then you might actually be, well, I guess what time of year is this? Or what's the temperature going to be?
This race is the weekend after July 4th this year.
Okay, it should be fairly warm.
It was going to be in August of last year. So it's a little bit earlier in the year. We are required to carry a insulative layer, so a long sleeve layer, as well as a jacket with a hood. So I will have to carry a rain jacket, rain shell, wind shell, something like that.
Just for requirements.
Just to meet the requirements. And I figured,
okay.
I might as well make that a rain jacket, so that if it does start raining, I've got a dry layer to put on and keep myself dry.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I guess I'm just thinking you've run enough of these races where we go out and we intentionally get wet. You're intentionally jumping into water and then continuing on running. So that part wouldn't be too foreign to you. But the fact that they have it baked into the you need this in order to run the race. I get it. I get it.
And it's something to keep in mind is we're starting the race at 7:30 a.m. The course cutoff is 11 p.m. that night. So
you got to deal with temperature changes. 16
hours. It's going to get dark, around 7:30, 8 o'clock. It'll start getting dark. So you have to make sure you can see the course. And in 2019, I want to say, they had a thunderstorm roll in the evening and start dumping rain and wind. on the people who are still on course in the middle of the night. So just kind of preparing for those eventualities. I'm hoping it's going to be an overcast, sunny, partly sunny day. That'd be pretty nice.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Are you training with that pack?
Yes. Yeah. So for all my long runs, Jeff and I, we're filling our pack up with all the water we plan to carry, as much of the gear as we plan to carry, just to get used to, okay, where's all the weight at? How do I access my food, my fuel during the course? And how's the pack feel? How's the pack ride as we're running?
So what kind of, are you going to take gel packs or blocks? You taking protein bar? Like, what are you carrying with you for fuel?
So I was originally thinking, gel packs. I've used those for marathons before, but I started looking at it. The recommendation is you need to consume, a couple hundred calories an hour, and each gel pack's only 100 calories. And so
Oof.
to carry enough fuel, I would have to have, 30 some gel packs with me all on course. And that just seems ridiculous.
Great. No, that sounds great.
Instead, I've been reading around trying to figure out what these ultra runners use and how they fuel themselves. And I found this stuff called Tailwind, and it's a calorie and electrolyte blend. It's basically, I tried it on my last run, and it's basically it creates sugar water effectively. And you just sip on that throughout the run, and you'll get some calories. Now I can't get everything from that. I won't have be able to carry enough water with me, but I can use that as my base calories, and then supplement that with some gels. I only have to carry a handful of gels. I'll have some waffles, some wafers with me. I'm required to carry 500 calories extra that I don't plan on using as my backup calories in case something happens on course.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have some Cliff Bars, maybe some trail mix with me in my pack, just to help give me some solid fuel to eat. And then there'll be stuff at the aid station. So they're going to have, watermelon, some pizza, some chips, stuff like that.
Nachos.
Yeah. And, you think, well, that seems like it's not, the chips and the pizza, that seems like it's not great for you while you're running. But what I've been reading is, some of those processed foods actually are better for you during something like this because they're easier for your gut to digest. They've already been partially processed.
Yeah, makes the energy a little more readily available.
Right. So you're able to break it down quicker. You're able to access that energy quicker.
It's crazy.
Compared to something, like, your whole grain toast, oatmeal, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So has your training basically entirely shifted to this 43-mile run?
Yeah. So I've just started my 16-week training plan. I was looking around. I was a little concerned about how I was going to train for something like this, being on course for 11 hours and training for that long. And found a training plan that is a 50-miler. And so I'm training for that. I've got right now 6 weeks a day that I'm going to be running with back-to-back long runs on the weekends.
6 days a week, you mean?
Yeah.
Not 6 weeks a day?
Absolutely. I'm just really fast.
You're breaking down the time continuum for your training is what you're telling me.
Well, yeah, that's the only way you can do this.
That's a lot, man. Okay.
Yeah. And so coming out of the lull we've been in with our training, where I was running maybe once a week, 5 or 6 miles, if I'm lucky, 8 miles on a Saturday. And now going into this, I'm trying to ramp up, my core training, being very careful with how fast I'm running, doing a lot of stretching, stuff like that, and making sure I don't injure myself.
Yeah, that's going to be, I know that anytime, because I mean, the way that we used to do training was we'd train for like the Tough Mudder. So we'd train, say, June to September, and then October through March, nothing, because we're,
Yeah.
on our off season, and then come back and start ramping up again. And a lot of those times coming back, it was a lot easier to get injured than even if you just reduce you could reduce the intensity of the training, but maintaining, maybe I'm not running, 40 miles a week anymore, but now I'm running, 10 miles a week, but still just keeping that a little bit of that edge to be able to keep your body used to the impact. And when you ramp up, it works out a lot better.
Yeah, and I'm hoping I've got enough of a base that this isn't as painful.
Well, you've already you already were doing some, like the runs at Lord Hill with Jeff to start prepping for that. How long have you been doing those?
So we've been running, like I said, doing these one runs a week, pretty much all through the pandemic. We really started ramping up more in January because Jeff was training for the Montana Ultra.
Yeah,
I think he really started that in December. Kevin and I, we gave it a shot. I think Kevin dropped it pretty quickly, and I dropped it like a couple weeks after that. Just said, hey, I really don't see us going to Montana. And so Jeff was on his own with his training. Now he's since moved his ultra a month later to, was it Ohio? I think it's Ohio.
I don't think it's
Ultra.
Ohio. It was like Tennessee or something like that. Virginia, or was it Virginia?
It's one of the ones in June. So he spot himself a month in his training, and I would join him for some of those runs. I think I got up to, 10 to 12 miles on my long runs, just doing that one run a week. And when we decided that we were going to start doing this Bigfoot race, slowly built myself back up, adding in a couple of extra runs, increasing my long runs a bit, and just kind of getting ready for this 16-week training plan.
And you just started today?
Today's the official start of my training, I guess. And you could count yesterday. Yesterday was my day off. Yesterday's my rest day. So 2 days
good to start with a day off. Yeah. Huh. So after that, are you planning on training at all for the September Spartan or any other Spartans at all?
Yeah, I'm going to sign up for September. I think at this point, it's looking like we're going to be pretty much fully vaccinated around June timeframe, Memorial Day. I know Biden's been pushing for Independence Day at the latest as independence from the virus.
He better come up with some great speech like Independence Day, so that when we open back up, it's like, we will not go quietly into the night.
Yeah. We're going to go on. We're going to survive.
Yes. Exactly. If he pulls that off, there will definitely be someone on the internet who will deep fake that speech and put Biden on there. That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting, but so you're not aiming to do any traveling, and like your whole, that's got to be depressing.
I'm going to stay local.
Your season pass is basically,
I know.
You've gotten what, 2 years worth of season passes out of this, and you're
and I'm going to run 3
4
race
weekends,
3-4 race weekends. Yeah.
Oh man. That's depressing. That's depressing.
Not really my money's worth, but what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of other stuff, that's first world problems right there, and there's a lot of real world problems out there with all this COVID stuff. So
Yeah.
good to try to keep perspective, I suppose. Although it's hard when you're locked in your house, not running the race, and you look at the calendar and be like, I was supposed to be in SoCal today.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I all through last year I was getting all these calendar notifications like, "Hell, time to get ready. You gotta go to this race." I'm like, I'm not flying there. Damn, that's disappointing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, all
So
right.
go ahead.
I don't know. I was just saying, I feel like we've kind of talked this OCR stuff to death, which is great. I love talking this. Um, were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to mention, getting into this Bigfoot race has got me thinking about, what I want to do after that.
Yeah.
And I know, so we were watching that video on the Moab 240
No,
when you were over,
no,
and
Dalton, no,
it got me thinking,
don't do it.
what does it take to train for something like that?
Oh my goodness.
Because
You have been hanging out with Jeff for too long.
well, it's okay. I looked at the website, and one of the things they say is snakes and scorpions. So I'm probably not going to run it.
Yeah, I know
But
I know you're not a fan of snakes.
there is a 200 miler in Tahoe. I might do. Anyways,
With the mountain. So you're what? You're gonna trade snakes for mountains? I don't know if that's a fair trade.
No. Moab's got 2 mountain ranges in it, so you can't say it's flat.
I know.
Anyways, it got me thinking, what would it take to get to Moab or get to that conditioning? And could I do it? Do I have a 1-year plan or a 2-year plan that would get me there?
Yeah, you'd need it for something like that. That's crazy.
And then really for something like this, I need a team. I need, pacers.
Oh, no.
I need a reliable set of
Here it
people
comes.
that I can trust to, keep me going. Those, when I'm doing my last 60 miles and they're right there with me all the way.
Oh, just the last 60. Yeah, okay. You realize you're talking to a guy who hasn't reached past 20 yet. So
So, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at Jeff, Kevin, to help me out for something like this.
yeah. Someday, I don't know, this whole back thing, I feel like I'm making good progress. Like, I feel like it's really slow progress. It's incredibly frustrating, especially like the first day that I went to physical therapy. The guy who was my physical therapist, he came in from a run. It was like that. He's like, so what do you like to do to stay? And I'm like, oh, I like to run. I was like, I saw you run in. He's like, oh yeah, sorry. Because yeah, that's the running is, I've tried getting back into it, and it's just something in my core and the way that all of my hip flexors and core muscles are not working together properly has done something to my back that I don't know. I feel like he's gotten a lot of proper things engaged so that I'm more set up for success, and I'm doing a lot more stretches, which a lot of the stretches he has me doing, I actually, when I was trying to kind of fix my own problems, I think that the only thing that I was really doing that was really wrong is I kept doing toe touches, like kept trying to do, because I was so proud of myself. I've never been a flexible person.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started doing yoga 3-4 years ago, I was finally able to touch my toes, and it was just such a proud accomplishment, something to put on my refrigerator, so to speak, that I didn't want to give it up. But I think because basically I've got one of my lower vertebra is too far back, and I think that doing those toe touches probably aggravated that more than it should have. So I don't know, actually, as I'm talking through this, I'm wondering if it was just all those toe touches that did me in and maybe not the running. I don't know, we'll see. But they've got me on a good course to, I really feel like the short runs are going to be coming in soon. Apparently it's going to be all about how long the run is and not how far the run is once I first start back. So I'll just have to run really fast.
Yeah. Yeah, you should probably start with probably trail runs. Well, like Centennial Trail, flat courses, versus getting out and immediately jumping into Lord Hill.
See, I love Lord Hill. That's that
I
man.
know, but that adds a lot more
I
core
know.
requirements.
And I mean, one of the things that, it's kind of a love-hate relationship with that Centennial Trail is they do have a lot of those little like dirt paths right off to the side. It's just, you never know when you're going to run right into like blackberries. And it's like, when it goes down and then you have to climb up the ditch, which is also covered in blackberries, which, in case anyone who listens to this is not from the Pacific Northwest, I never understood it as a kid growing up in Montana, but blackberries are just, I mean, they're thistles, they're thorns, they're nasty. I remember the first time when we were renting down in Snohomish, the first year that we were here, some of those blackberry creepers, they came up over the fence because we were up on a green belt, and they came up and over, and I went out to clean up the blackberries in the backyard, and I had gloves on, thankfully, but still those things went right through leather gloves. And man, let me tell you, that was a wake up, because my dad had always, he grew up here and he always complained about blackberries, but I didn't get it. So going on a run at Centennial Trail and surprise blackberries is never a fun experience. So
no, it's not.
But the flat is definitely a better approach. I think that, because we did do more runs on Centennial when we were prepping for the marathon, and switching to having the right pair of shoes did a lot. Like having those Asics that were more cushioned really helped me more than I care to admit. Because, I just got, these are my running shoes. I run on them everywhere, but it helped a lot. So fortunately, those shoes are actually still in pretty decent shape. So maybe I should start at Centennial when I start back up. I don't know. We'll have to see what Mr. Physical Therapist says to me.
What's your timeline look like? Are you,
I don't
a couple weeks out, a month out?
I don't have a specific timeline because they were wanting to start really slow with me to make sure that I was, it's making sure you're building the foundation right before you start putting up the frames, so to speak.
Yeah.
And apparently I've been moving through it quite well. The big difference, he says I move through it really well because I actually do the physical therapy at home, which the amount that I do at home, I feel like, I'm usually lucky if I can get 2/3 of the days doing what I'm supposed to. But I have noticed some of my core muscles, you're supposed to feel this or feel that. And it has improved a lot. I feel like essentially the stuff that he's wanted me to activate in the core has come through a lot better. So I feel like as far as my core muscles, that's a lot better. The piece that I'm nervous about and I've never been great at is the flexibility. Real proud about touching my toes, but as far as my hip flexors, they've always been extremely tight. And so like when I was trying to fix it at home, I was doing a lot of like pigeon from yoga stuff to try to really dig deep into the hip flexors, and I was doing a lot of that very similar to what I'm doing right now. It's a little bit more targeted right now, which if you're going to a physical therapist, you'd expect them to tell you that, as opposed to just what I was doing, which was looking stuff up on the internet. So it's good to know that my internet searches were at least close, although I love to say anytime you go on the internet, you just find out you're going to die in 5 minutes. So
Oh yeah, yeah. WebMD.
Yes, WebMD, and you're going to be dead in 5 minutes. Do you want to, give you a link to LegalZoom for your will?
Yeah.
But it's been going well. I don't have a specific time frame. More specific goals. They give, like they do reassessments every, I want to say 6 weeks. And basically except for being able to do light jogging, I met all the goals that they were looking for from me. So I feel like the light jogging has to be right around the corner for me. So soon.
Good. It will be good to get you back out there.
Yeah. Even if it's just, I can run with you for the first quarter mile and then say, all right, I'm going home.
Even that little bit will help.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing that I always really appreciated about our group workouts is I don't know how many times I would have skipped that workout and been like, screw this. I am not going out, especially that one year that we went all the way through the winter and we were running around at the snow at the baseball fields. And it was like, what the hell are we doing?
And the rain.
It was miserable.
It just helps having that other person to,
well, it's like, I know Dalton's going to be there. And I know if I don't go, he's going to give me a load of crap if I don't show up. And it's both ways. So it's
you need someone to share in the misery.
Exactly. So I get it. I want to get back out there. I know you appreciate, even if it's just for the first quarter mile, like I said, it'll be good. I'm really looking forward to it. And I mean, and during this whole pandemic thing, I mean, being stuck at home, obviously everything is more stressful, just from, assuming you're following the procedures and doing what you're supposed to, let alone getting sick. None of us have gotten sick here with COVID. We had a couple scares with, 3 kids. You're going to get a couple colds every now and then, but it's always like, is that COVID? Is that COVID? And it's usually like a 1-day cold, but I'm still sitting in bed thinking about my will. That's that's just how I am sometimes. But yeah, it's a lot of stress, and then having the running and like just being able to go downstairs and do pull-ups, even like between meetings, between all these virtual meetings, having an excuse to go downstairs and do pull-ups, having that kind of taken away, and that physical exertion was really disappointing. Because I mean, when I hurt my back, I was actually doing a virtual Tough Mudder event, and that's a big reason why I actually hurt my back. Because I used to hurt my back. I mean, I'm sure you remember, I would be out for I'd be out for a week, so to speak, with a back injury, and be like, I just need to take a week off. I'd be gone for a week, and then I'd come back and I'd be fine. Well, during this virtual race, I was like, well, I got to run 5 miles a day or I'm not going to meet my goal. And it was like, I hurt my back. I'm like, well, I'm not doing any of the strength training and it's just running, so I'm sure I'll be fine. And I did that for 2 days. And then, 6 months later, here I am still unable to run. So it was a very poor choice. But I did get enough miles that with the walking I was doing, I was still able to get my little Tough Mudder headband and coin and shirt.
Well, that's what matters.
Exactly. I got the swag. Never mind the fact that you can just buy the swag if you want.
No, you have to earn it. Otherwise, It doesn't count.
Well, and I would hate that, like not finishing and then getting the swag. That would be depressing. Oh man, just throw it in the trash.
So let's assume you're back up to running speed. You're back out there, feeling a lot better. What's your goal? What do you want to do the next season, the next year?
So
what are you going to try to train for?
So what I have to admit, like, I think that if I really pushed myself and if I worked on my grip strength more, I could do pretty well. Cause I mean, I didn't do as well as you. I mean, you were legit winning races straight out, regardless of the age group you were in. But I mean, there was that one year where I set out to get top 10 in my age group, and I did it. And that was, that was a fantastic feeling. And it really pushed me to work harder the next year, but it kind of pushed me a little too far, I think. But kind of in that, I found that, I like having the competitive aspect because it does make me push harder. But I also really liked the group events. So, I mean, ideally coming back, I don't know exactly. I haven't really thought about it too much. I mean, I would definitely want to do, the Tough Mudder, get people involved that way. Want to do I mean, okay, here we go. I'm just going to make this up as I go, because that's what we do. I would, I would do a group Montana Beast, a group Tough Mudder, and a competitive Super or Beast in Seattle in September, and basically allow for lighter training over the holidays. I don't want to have to ramp up too quickly to be competitive for like the May timeframe, but then take the spring, the summer, and the fall to ramp up more and go for it in September. And, make that kind of the baseline. And then probably, if there's a way to get to a national race, or do, travel like maybe once a year, maybe skip Montana one year and then go down to Tahoe for a, one race or something like that. I mean, I still really enjoy Spartan, from the aspect of it really forces me to think about not just my cardio, but also not just the strength. I think that mixing those two is, our bodies are fairly well set up to do both. And I mean, I think you could make a case to focus on one or the other, and it's not going to be too detrimental. I just know that anytime, especially over the last couple of years, anytime I've focused more on running, I would pretty much instantly get knee pain if I stopped doing leg exercises. So I really do like the idea of continuing with Spartans, not just focusing competitive. I like the idea of helping people, and getting them interested, seeing them progress. I mean, I loved seeing you go out and just kill it, because, I went from you who didn't want to touch mud to now you're okay with wallowing in it. And now you're like blazing through it, was awesome. And I mean, Kevin did that too. I remember when Kevin came to his first workout, he could barely get around the baseball field. Jeff was passing him. And then by the end of, 2 years later, he was out there. I mean, he got first place in his age group, right?
Yeah.
That same time as you, like
you
both did.
Really well.
That was so funny. that one race in Seattle where that was the one where I couldn't go, but I just went to the ceremony with you guys. But it was really cool to like go out there and see two, of the four of us, two of you guys out there winning your age group, at Spartan, and being like, yeah, that's my crew, It was great. It was really awesome to, know that it was good validation that, because I mean, I think a lot of these races, if you decide that you really want to push yourself, kind of like you and Kevin do, I did try for a bit. I don't think I pushed myself as hard as you guys did. But if you really wanted it, you really could go and get it. And it was a good validation that the general approach that I was taking with all the training was working. Now, admittedly, you guys were off doing a lot more running outside of those group workouts, but the group workouts, we had set them up and had them targeted well enough that you guys were able to go out and kick some ass and succeed. And it was great. It was it was a lot of fun. So there's that piece of wanting to, there's not a lot of people at Boeing who are really looking to get themselves in shape physically, but you find the right people, and then I know that I can give them the tools that if they want to, they can go out and succeed with it. And so it's really fun for me to be able to do that. So, I mean, ideally, I'd love to just, I realize we're down Kevin and Jeff because they decided to go be rocket scientists and send people to the moon and stuff. But, I think that, I've got a solid enough plan, and especially with you there, that if we get other people interested, that we could, help some other people improve their lives. It may sound a little cliche or pie in the sky, but I mean, going out there and having a group of people that you like hanging out with, you got a similar goal, everybody's pushing themselves, and you go out and you have those goals for, this is the race where everyone is really going to push themselves. And so you need to train for that. But at the same time, we're also going to have a race where we're all just hanging out on the course and having a good time. I think that it's a really good balance. And so, I think that's the direction that I would want to take it. Kind of very similar to what we've been doing. And I like the idea that at the end of every year, how we would sit down and be like, okay, this worked, this didn't. Here's a proposed change. You all give me frowny faces. And then we come back a year later and be like, did this work? And he was like, no, Luke, this did not work at all. Or, yeah, actually that did work out really well, and we want to ramp it up even more next year. Okay, great. It's just a lot of fun. So I find the group aspect very rewarding. So, I mean, I think that that's assuming that my back doesn't hold me back. Assuming that kind of keep me restrained too much. That's what I would want to do, kind of more of the same. And I hate saying that, I want to do more of the same. I do want to try and, keep things mixed up. It's just, we spent, what would that be, 4 years kind of ironing out where we wanted to and how we wanted to do things. And we finally had it all clicking. And then I got my hernia and surgery, and then COVID hit, and then Jeff and Kevin are moving away. I mean, it's admittedly, it was depressing. It was depressing, like, because those all kind of came one at a time, first my hernia, then COVID, then we hear those two are moving away, and yeah, but
we're starting over. In a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I mean, and there's a couple people in the group at Boeing right now that if we were doing workouts and we were able to go out there and run around in the very limited but beautiful Washington sun, I think there's a lot of potential to get another group going. I think that we were adding, and we had plenty of people out there from time to time. A lot of people would come out and try it. And some people were sticking around.
We had a day where we had like 7 or 8 people out there with us.
Yeah,
that was a big group.
That was a fun day. Yeah,
because we had the core of us, and then several other people, new people.
Well, and I loved the whole I forget the guy. Every once in a while, we would be running down to the beach or running the trail, and we would literally see him standing next to his car and being like, hey, we're going to go run to the beach. You want to come with us? And he'd be like, yeah, let's go. And it's like, hi, I'm Luke. It's like, hi, I forget his name. But man, it was, just kind of that carefree, like I said, it's a little pie in the sky, but it's just a lot of fun to just go out there and not be tied down to like keeping the group aspect and not pushing it straight competitive. I think keeps the level of fun in there that keeps people wanting to come back, in my opinion.
And you were doing things well, dealing with different levels of activity, different levels of fitness, and how to manage that with your with the circuit courses when we're out on long runs, you know, doubling back and back and forth, waiting at junctions.
Yeah, and I mean, and that comes from, well, that kind of comes from two things. The first, that comes from back when I was in the Air Force down in Texas, in San Antonio. Shout out to headquarters recruiting. We would have, I was, well, when I first got there, I wasn't in charge of PT. There was another guy, Condi, and he was a beast. He was training to be a PJ, which is basically, you have, I mean, there's the basic military physical fitness standards, but if you're going to go be a battlefield airman, that's basically, you know, and I'll probably get in trouble with someone here, but it's not quite special ops training, but it's really close. I mean, they have you up, you know, 30 hours at a time. They have Hell Week, all this kind of stuff, based on the different programs. But he was training to do that. So he was absolutely shredded. He was doing like 3 workouts a day. And he was in charge of PT for our group. And so he would just wreck us. That's where I learned about burpees. That's where I learned about the backwards bear crawl, which were miserable. But a lot of how he ran the workouts worked for varying levels of fitness. And he took a new job, and so the group needed a fitness leader. And so I just, yeah, I'll step up. I've done enough of this that I think I can throw together a couple workouts. And I mean, it was fun because, I mean, you had to come up with something where there were people, like there were a couple people in the group. I wasn't the fastest. He wasn't quite to your level, but he was a really good runner. Really weird running style, where he only ran on his toes, like only ran on his toes. And he'd run that way his whole life. He never had any calf problems. It was super bizarre to watch him run, but he was faster than me. So I had to come up with a workout where he would be okay. And then also occasionally we'd have training sessions where some of the recruiters from around the country would come in for a training session on whatever update for recruiting needed to be pushed out for training. And so we'd get people who did not have much physical fitness going on. And I honestly love those days because you'd get through, you know, you'd start the workout, and, you know, my workouts, you'd start off with a warm up. I wouldn't call it a warm up at the beginning. So, you know, you're going through and you're doing like, you know, 20 burpees, you know, 10 push-ups, you know, all this stuff, enough to where you've got a really good sweat going. And I'd stand up and be like, all right, that was the warm up. And just watching everybody's eyes get big and just, that was the warm up. What the hell? You're killing us, Captain. It's like, we have yet to start. And so, but then building workouts where essentially you could, because we did this, we would do essentially loops like that, where you would have these long loops. And it was like we did this one place called Four Corners, where you'd have essentially, it was about a mile loop. There was just a square. And so just at each corner, you'd pick out, you know, okay, at this corner, you do this activity, this corner, you do this activity, or you run a full loop and then you do a whole lot right here at the start point. But a lot of that still did come from my predecessor, Condi, and he kind of planted the seed there, and then I ran with it. And then the other piece of it was running those first couple Tough Mudders, which a couple of them were actually down in Texas, but where essentially I was the faster runner in some of those. And, you know, when you're a faster runner, you want to run at your pace. You don't want to run slower. So what I did in those races is I would run ahead to the obstacle and then run back, because I didn't really want to stop running and go back, encourage the people that are on your team, you know, hey, you got this, just one step at a time. Sometimes run with them, sometimes run ahead. And so kind of all of that kind of came together, especially like out at Lord Hill. when we were doing the longer runs at Lord Hill, if, you know, it's really easy to get separated out there. And especially when all of us were new to Lord Hill, I'm pretty sure we got lost.
Oh yeah.
Quite a few times. So sticking together as a group was good. So, I mean, I had a good, like, it's not like I was making the stuff up on the fly. I had a lot of background that I was pulling from, and I'm thankful for all of that, because, you know, it's put me in a position where we were able to have a successful group. And it was, you know, it's a lot of fun. So that I'd definitely like to get back to something like that.
Yeah, so would I.
Long term.
So would I.
So you'd want to stick with the Spartans if we were able to get together a team like that? Because I think you're nervous about the electric obstacles, Dalton.
I am a little. I'm a little nervous. We'll see what the 2021 season looks like.
Watching him pass out. I already shared that video online once with Trailmaster Hammond running through that, or crawling through that, passing out for half a second and then keeping going. was intense. And I admit I don't like it either, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I might do a more targeted approach to Spartan. Maybe just try to hit the national series races and just focus on those. Maybe just the races I hit, do all of them in elite, something like that. Where when I go to them, I'm really competing hard, but probably not going to all the events like I was in 2019. Because that was a lot of travel. It was a long season, and I didn't really have time to do anything else.
Yeah,
it was just constantly training for Spartan.
Yeah,
I kind of want to mix it up. I know every time I do this, I say I'm never going to run another one, but
well, the funny thing is,
sign up for another marathon and do some of these longer races.
Yeah, I was talking to Jeff about that too, and he's like, he finishes his marathon. I am never running a marathon again, but I will run a 30-mile Spartan. And it's like, it's like, I'm never running a 30-mile Spartan again, but I will run a 50 or 40-mile race. It's like, oh my gosh. It's like, yeah. And I mean, I get that. I remember after my first Tough Mudder down in Texas, it was a Corpus Christi one, I think. Miserable day, like 50 degrees, wind was howling. They had us going around a lake. There was no sun. So you were constantly getting into the water and then standing up and being in the wind. And
oh yeah.
And we were with a team that had some slower people on it. So we took our time and, ran back and forth a little, but there was plenty of standing around. And man, that was a lot of people in space blankets. By the end of that race, it was pretty cold. But yeah, we'll have to see what this year brings. And yeah, I mean, I'm curious I know that Spartan is likely to take a couple of those Tough Mudder obstacles, but I'm assuming that it'll probably go the other way as well. Where Tough Mudder, I mean, I don't know what obstacle would you take from Spartan that you could turn into some kind of a group obstacle. I mean, because Spartan, I mean, they do a fantastic job at creating obstacles that target very specific aspects, usually relating to grip strength. But I mean, maybe something like Twister. Imagine a Twister where you had somehow had to have two people going at the same time, but if one person was going too slow or too fast, that the other person wouldn't have the handles. I mean, you could do something like that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
That could be.
I was thinking, something like Hercoist or Slide Drag, where you had to get a group of people together just to pull something.
Yeah.
From one side to the other. I mean, just that we did that jerky challenge.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was fun. Where we carried that jerky a couple miles through the course.
Yeah, jerky, as in about the size of 2 queen mattresses stacked on top of each other.
Pretty much,
and banging two empty halves of coconuts together. Shout out to the muddy pythons. Yeah, that was fun. But yeah, so, or maybe like do something really, well, boot camp related would be like the telephone pole carry. I mean, I don't think you'd want to do an actual telephone pole, but you know, something along those lines of big, long, and heavy, and make a group of people carry that all together. I don't know.
Again, one of the things that Tough Mudder excels at is mixing in the psychological obstacles. You know, the one where it feels like you're drowning because the fence is just right above the water and you're going along with just your face out of the water.
I love, and then they just put a little sprinkle of water. So, you know, so you have to close your eyes while you're doing it. So your face is pretty much underwater. You can barely breathe. You have to close your eyes, and you have to keep going.
And then there's electric obstacle. There's the ice obstacles. There's that one where you have to like go underneath the tarp and crawl through dark enclosed space. Yeah, stuff like that. You know, that's challenging for people, but it's not physical necessarily. It's just,
and I like that
fear factor.
Yeah, they make the challenge more than just a physical challenge, which, you know, and that's what Spartan excels at, is the physical, but really mixing in those other obstacles. You know, it's good to have the sense of accomplishment to get over a wall. And I mean, and that may sound incredibly simple when, you know, just getting over a wall, but I mean, when it's a 10-foot wall, 12-foot wall, and you have to get help from someone to get over, and then you help somebody, I mean, that's that feeling of satisfaction of getting over a wall like that. You know, you do that 2 or 3 times with a few of those simple obstacles, and you're all of a sudden having a great time. You're feeling good about yourself. And then, and then all of a sudden comes like that one where it was crawling up through a tube that had very limited handholds, and it was pouring water down on you, and it was dark. And actually, one of the ones that really got me is they had those tubes, but they went down into water, and they had the water level just perfect so that you could just see a sliver of light. So that you had to go under, so that you knew that you'd be okay, but you had to be in an enclosed space, go underwater, and go deeper. And man, that. I mean, it wasn't like the worst thing in the world, but it was, it definitely, it's a challenge, and it's what makes it fun, you know? Yeah. I'm trying to think, they had some other one. I was trying to remember too. I mean, the most miserable one that I've gotten at Tough Mudder was that very first Tough Mudder. It was a low crawl through small chunks of ice, and then they had the electroshock therapy hanging down on top of it. Oh man. And man, I got like, so I mean, you'd get hit with the electroshock, and then you'd fall into the ice, but the ice, like the electrodes were long enough that even if you laid down completely, you were still getting touched by them. Jeez. And I mean, you could see the car batteries right next to it. Like, you could just see them, and you just hear them going off. It was so bad. It was pretty sketchy, actually. But but yeah, I mean, that's, you know, getting through that, because, you know, that time that I did that with that group of people, there was a couple people who didn't do it, and it was, you know, the people who didn't do it just like, well, good job. And you could just see that, you know, I'm glad I did it, because I knew that if I didn't do it, there would be that sense of looking back and thinking, you know, I probably could have handled it. So I'm glad that I went for it and did it, but that was miserable. I hope that Spartan doesn't get any weird ideas about that. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the runs we did, the 3 Tough Mudders we did, but I really don't want to go back and go through that electroshock therapy stuff. You can just go around any obstacle. That's the way Tough Mudder's set up. So you can just come out with us, hang out on the course, and we'll
I
all
could.
just cover our eyes and then promise not to make fun of you endlessly for the Besides, the key to that, and Jeff and I really figured this out when we went to Colorado and did that Colorado event. The key to the electroshock therapy is really realizing you are not there for other people's entertainment, and to take it slow. If you take it slow and it's not a breezy day, you can get through without getting a single shock.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, and I've heard this happens, the MC shakes the whole rig because they know what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, because they like to position those, where their spectators are, right at the very
There's
end.
people with lawn chairs waiting for you to go through. Yes, people know what's going on.
Yeah. Waiting for those idiots to link arms and try to walk through together.
That time that we linked arms with, was it Foster?
Yeah.
And those guys, that time it actually wasn't that bad.
No,
it was the time when they put Arctic enema right before, so you were all soaking wet, and I swear they upped the juice on that or something, because maybe it was just the water
so quickly.
Oh my gosh, it was that would be hilarious to see a video of that. Just like, screw this. Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do, but I don't know. I mean, I definitely, I mean, the interesting thing with like how to get other people interested is you either tell them, okay, well, we're going to go do this 10-mile Tough Mudder and it's going to be fun, or we're going to go do this 5-mile and it's going to be really challenging. We'll all be together, but you're probably going to have to do burpees. So it's like, and I'm sure that's why, Tough Mudder, in the end, they had all kinds of like 5Ks and half Tough Mudders, and they were kind of just throwing it much at the wall that they could to see what sticks. And I think that's because they were losing money for a long time. So I don't know, but I want to keep it out there because I think it's fun. And it's a good way to get other people interested in it. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll have to take it, one season at a time, see who comes out, see who's interested. So
yeah,
we'll see. But on to more pressing matters. Godzilla versus King Kong.
That's this week, right?
Is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it comes out this week.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I thought
we were gonna get together with Jose to watch that, right? I think.
Yeah, I know he sent out a meeting notice next week.
Oh, so yeah, it comes out on. It comes out next week. It's next week. It comes out.
Yeah, the 31st.
But
okay.
They actually have movie theaters. I've heard they have movie theaters open around here now. So I don't know. That's going to be something I think we'd all have to talk about, what we wanted to do, if we wanted to go as a group to a movie theater or if we just wanted to go to Jose's house. I don't know. That's kind of I realize that things are not fully open yet. And Jose has a projector right here, so we will get the big screen experience. So I don't know. We'll have to talk. I'm just excited that movie theaters are opening in general, because that's I mean, whichever companies are left. My God, that's frustrating.
Well, it looks like AMC is open next week.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at least
and McMinimans, Anderson School. That's all. Everything that's open.
McMinimans. I don't know that one. Is that like a dine in and have a movie?
I didn't even know they had a theater down there. I know I've been down there once or twice now. I think we went down there once for an event.
I mean, I've been to like Cinnabar, and there was one of them down in Texas. I forget the name of the place down in Texas that
the
Alamo Draft House. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. Just dirty places, but they were a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun. But yeah. Anyways, I think and what I want to have in Godzilla versus Kong, I want King Kong to win. I want him to charge up that axe and just take out Godzilla, and then have Godzilla come back as Mecha Godzilla. I think that would be.
You know what I'm annoyed about is they've already spoiled Mecha Godzilla.
Don't tell me that. They have not spoiled it, Dalton. You have just spoiled it to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I was looking through YouTube yesterday, and there's a promo literally called Mecha Godzilla.
Well, that's got to be one of those other. That's got to be one of those other things. It's not involved with this movie at all. The timing is purely coincidental.
Of course.
I'm sure. Yeah, I've actually seen that they've released a lot of clips from the movie to promote it. I haven't. The only thing I've watched is the first trailer. I haven't watched anything
think I
else,
watched the first and second trailer, and then caught a couple of things by accident.
Yeah,
I agree. I usually try to
movie
avoid
for me. That's what's happening here.
I don't know what you've seen. The internet's a dangerous place.
I hated that. Like about the like Endgame. When Endgame came out, I was legit paranoid. Like when I was at work, Foster, his daughter was a manager at a movie theater.
Right.
And he
didn't care.
He did not care, and he was going to ruin it for me. And I told him, if you don't knock it off, I am calling in sick and going home. Like, this was the day before it came out. And I'm like, just shut up. I don't want to know. I don't want to know anything.
Yeah.
And he, he made the usual, Eric Foster completely ridiculous proposals as to what would happen. And it was, he didn't ruin it, but man, after walking out of Infinity War, and just being like, what the hell did I just watch? That's the most, like, what? This is not what I expected. I mean, because I dressed up as Captain America.
Oh that. Yeah, I remember.
I haven't dressed up for a movie since like Pirates of the Caribbean. So that was a big thing for me. And
well, on the plus side, you survived.
Yeah, I was one of the 50% that made it out. But after that, I was like, there's no way I am, there's no way I'm ruining Endgame. I mean, I was even really hesitant to watch any of the trailers for Endgame because I didn't want to ruin it. But I saw some stuff from Kevin Feige before the movie came out where he was pretty clear that any of the promotional material that they put out would not spoil it. And they did a great job with that. They really handled it well. I wasn't out looking for leaks. I'm sure that they were out there if you wanted to find them. But the way that they handled that was really great, because it was a fantastic movie. And I'm hoping Kong versus Godzilla is the same way. So
yeah, I agree. It's more fun to enjoy the movie than to go snooping around trying to find all the little bits and pieces beforehand. Mm-hmm. And then get upset because they're not what you expected, or when you go watch the movie, they're the wrong information anyways.
Yeah. Well, and so for the Star Wars, Last Jedi. What's the last? Rise of Skywalker. That's what it. Rise of Skywalker. Somebody at work was walking around talking about it and was like, "Oh yeah, Rey's Palpatine," and it was like a week before the movie came out, and I was just like, dude, don't say that. It's like, why? I'm like, because I don't want to know that yet. He's like, oh, don't worry, I was kidding. And it was like, yeah, you better not have been. Lo and behold, thanks, jerk.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, even the what was it? I forget which one. It was one of the Disney Plus shows, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was there was some show I was watching where Google had figured out that I was interested in this show.
Oh, I was just going to mention this. Go ahead.
And Google will be like, oh, and like, this show just came out, so it'll send me a picture of what's about to happen. And like, it doesn't matter. You're just scrolling through your feed, looking to see, whatever you want to look at for news, and boom, spoiled. It's like, I don't know, the whole Big Brother aspect. I'm not big on that. I actually have DuckDuckGo on my phone now.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly. I haven't used it too much, but yeah.
I mean, for me, what I'm dealing with right now is I'm way behind the times. I'm finally watching Game of Thrones. I never paid for HBO as when it was coming out. I was like, I'll catch it later at some point. I managed to avoid most of the spoilers. I had some idea of where things are going. So I'm enjoying the show. But now I'm starting to see these ads come up or these videos come up in my YouTube feed saying, "Oh,
Oh, oh
here's
no.
here's
And you're like seasons behind, not just like a couple days.
right the major deaths of this season or this person's death or talking reviews about this." And I'm like, no, don't show me this stuff because even just the name of it or the picture tells me something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's frustrating.
Which, I mean, there's a piece of that too, which I find myself kind of puzzled by, because it's like, okay, I'm bored. What should I do? I'll just browse YouTube. And I remember when it was like YouTube, you only went to YouTube if you knew exactly what you wanted to look for. It's like, oh, there's this new cat video that's hilarious. And so you search cat video number 10,007. And it's like, oh, there it is. Wow, that was hilarious. And then that was it. I mean, so the fact that they've changed their system enough to where I just want to go browse it, and they have all the links to the videos afterwards to keep people engaged. It's interesting. I don't know, because I mean, there's parts of it that's like, there's this video series that I've watched, dozens of videos from, and I like the videos from them. So then the feed's like, oh, you like this video? Well, they just released a new one and here it is. Oh, delightful, but then yeah, stuff like we're talking about with like spoiling stuff comes up, or it's like, okay, I'm actually done watching these videos. I don't want to see any more Mystery Science Theater 3000s. Oh my goodness. Fantastic. Those are fantastic, by the way. But yeah, it's interesting. And with like WandaVision, that one was a hard one, because we were watching it a day after it came out.
Yeah.
On a regular
and
basis.
Half the time I would spoil it for you because I would watch
it
you
would.
while you're at work.
You didn't give anything away too bad, so I appreciate that. but like, and I'm really glad that I wasn't really digging into it. I mean, I feel like there were a couple movies where I decided I'm just going to go all in and look at what's coming and watch everything I possibly can. And anytime I do that, I end up enjoying the movie less, because it's like, I mean, like even because I find myself like, I enjoy watching movie trailers like repetitively. It's probably not healthy, but I really enjoy movie trailers. But I found that even just watching movie trailers, unless it's done really well, like they did with Endgame, I would be sitting there and in my head, I'd be like checking the box on all the scenes from the movie trailer and be like, okay, we haven't seen this yet, which means this is going to happen. And that means this person is the bad guy. And there it is. And it's like, so I have to like, I've tried to really cut back on watching, like, which is hard, because like a preview, like they had the first preview for the first Godzilla was fantastic. Like, I really love it when they really sync up the way that the scenes bounce around and move between, when it's synced up to the music. Kong Skull Island had one of those trailers that I really liked, because it was everything in the whole trailer was all about just linking up to this music. And I think Guardians of the Galaxy had one too, for the chain from Fleetwood Mac. Fantastic trailer. I still just sit down and watch it every once in a while, usually with the boys, because they want to, when can I see that? Well, not yet, but we can watch a trailer again. And now they like Fleetwood Mac. So, so it's not all bad.
One of the ones that sticks out to me is Suicide Squad, because the trailer that they put out was better than the movie. I watched that so much because they had synced it to Bohemian Rhapsody.
I think I remember that one. Yeah,
and it looked so it was very funny. It looked like it had a great story. It was really excited to go watch this movie, and then you get to it and it's just like, well, this is not what the trailer promised.
Yeah.
I mean, the trailer did its job, but
it got butts in seats.
Yeah, it definitely oversold the content of the movie and showed all the best parts without us realizing it.
And when I hate with that is when they show the best parts. I mean, if it's like an action movie, okay, you can show some of the cool action pieces, but there's still usually enough action to go around that it's still entertaining. But when they do it with like a comedy movie and they put all the best jokes in the trailer, like they almost overdid it with Deadpool. Like I still love that movie. Deadpool, yes, it's raunchy and violent, but my goodness, that movie is like Ryan Reynolds knocks it out of the park. That guy is hilarious. But they almost overdid it on, I feel like they overdid it on the second one. The first one, it was really close. They still had enough there was enough new stuff in there, but I feel like with comedy, it's a little harder to come back from that if you literally take all your best jokes, because then you have all the best content in the trailer and you're laughing hysterically when you watch the trailer, and then you go to the movie and it's like, well, this was good, but I already knew all the jokes. I already knew all the punchlines. It's like, come on.
Well, with Deadpool, they've got so many, different versions of the joke.
Oh, yes.
So much more.
That's true.
They released a second movie.
Yes. I actually wanted to sit down and watch that, and I could not find it anywhere. I couldn't find where to go watch that.
Yeah, I
feel like it was a limited release. There's probably like a few DVDs of it out there, and I don't know, maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be right.
But that movie was, the first Deadpool came out of nowhere. I mean, and I love the fourth wall in that, where like literally the first scene is just, that comes up to him and he's like, oh, hello. Who would have thought we would have ever been here? It's so good. It's so good. But I don't know. And then on the Marvel side, they've got, because they keep pushing out Black Widow, I think that it's going to end up on Disney Plus. Well, I don't know. With things really opening up, maybe it won't. I mean, I don't even know what its release date is right now, but
it's the beginning of May again, I think.
It's like this whole pandemic thing has been like no new Marvel movies at all. They've had the shows coming out, which is great. And I love the way that they have those balanced, because you're basically going to have like almost every week for the next 2 years a new show coming out on Friday, like with a 1 week break between when a show ends and the next one starts. So that'll be fun. But there's going to be, I feel like there's just going to be a kind of just a big bleh of all the Marvel movies coming out, starting with the new Black Widow, or is it the old Black Widow? I don't know. And then getting into all the other ones. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see how they keep that together. Well, one of the things I'm disappointed in, though, is the lack of tie-in with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
So you said that they had that book in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
They did.
I feel like, and what would be hilarious is, we keep waiting, or I don't know. There's plenty of people that I think there's probably enough people out there that I'm comfortable enough saying we for the fans, but I'll just say it myself, that I have been waiting for the multiverse to actually open up, because I feel like they teased it on Spider-Man Far From Home, and nothing. And they kind of made some pretty strong allusions to it with WandaVision, and then nothing. And they have a movie coming out with, you know, the Multiverse of Madness, and it's like, is that just a red herring too? Like, I feel like they're just kind of setting us up so that when we go to the theater and we're like, yeah, it's another one of the multiverse movies, it's not going to be about the multiverse, and then boom, all of a sudden the multiverse happens. I don't know. I mean, like, have you looked at the cast list for Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man?
No, I'm trying to avoid spoilers.
Okay,
Come on,
well,
what's wrong with you?
Then I won't say anything else. If like that movie is going to be interesting just based on the cast list. I won't say anything more because yeah, I won't do to you what you did to me. So, but yeah, did you watch I'm assuming you watched Falcon Winter Soldier?
Oh yeah, I watched that the first day. It's definitely, I mean, it's the first episode. It helps. It's setting it up.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see where they take from there.
And they really started with a bang. Like,
yeah,
like through that whole fight, both Zach and I were expecting, like, okay, because we're actually letting him watch this one because, you know, the WandaVision, we had no idea where it was going to go. So, which I still think it's a bit too much for him. So we're holding back on that one. But this one, we're like, I think this is going to be pretty much straight action. So we'll just go for it.
Yeah.
And it was like, when do you think, you know, that opening sequence, do you think, my prediction was that Falcon would fail in some way and that he'd realize he needs help. And Zach's was he would just like, he would be caught in some situation and Bucky would just show up and save him. And both of us were wrong. So
of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
How many times were we wrong on WandaVision?
Oh my gosh.
I
wanted that to go so many different
missteps.
directions. Like I wanted mutants, I wanted multiverse, I wanted Mephisto. Like,
yeah. I mean, I thought it was AIM in the beginning because of the hexagon and then the beekeeper outfit and just a lot of little red herrings that threw us all in the wrong way.
yeah, and like I mean, what Joanna and I love doing is doing the you watch an episode and then you just sit down and just dive into Reddit or, you know, IGN or just and any of these, you know, comic book heavy websites and just read theories. And, you know, there was some fun ones out there, you know, some good pointers to how they could pull the Fantastic Four in on this and mutants and all this. And I don't know. I think I need to keep a more level head with my expectations for that because they essentially just finished out, I mean, Endgame, which, I mean, you can't have something to that level all the time or it wouldn't be special. And so essentially what they're doing now is they're relaying the groundwork for whatever their next big event is, whether that be, you know, some big baddie like Thanos or, you know, I've heard, you know, a lot about Young Avengers or Secret Wars being the direction they're taking it. So, and I really expected WandaVision to go House of M, like a similar to House of M storyline.
Yeah.
But it never did. So it was still really entertaining. I mean, the finale was gut wrenching, but it was, and something I noted, like at the end of that show, I think that they're trying to set it up. I mean, if they follow that, what they did with that was, if you watch the show, then you have more backstory on the characters.
Yeah.
But
it's not required reading.
Exactly. So like if all the characters just show up in another movie, you could pretty much, I mean, White Vision would be the only kind of outlier there. And I mean, I guess if Wanda all of a sudden needs to go find her family, I mean, people in the theaters who hadn't seen WandaVision would be like, she has a family? I didn't even know.
Or she's all of a sudden she's now the Scarlet Witch for real. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get by without it. Similar to, you know, you're reading a comic book and you miss an arc, or you miss a publication run. You can pick it up on the next the next series and
Mm-hmm.
kind of figure out where you're at.
And Marvel's done a great job of, essentially putting just enough information into some of these where you're able to catch up. Now, I think the one time they didn't do that was Endgame. And I think they knew that anyone going to Endgame pretty much knew what they were getting themselves into.
Well, I mean, that was a two-parter. That's kind of like going to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 without watching the first one at a minimum.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, they've done a good job. So I mean, even if they do need to play catch up to get, once the Doctor Strange movie is apparently going to involve Scarlet Witch somehow. They'd usually do a pretty good job of giving you enough information so that you can at least get through the movie for a lot of those more standalone movies as opposed to the team ups. So I think they'll do fine. I don't know. And anytime I've been like, what is Marvel doing? It's always been like, oh, I love this. Like Guardians of the Galaxy was the perfect example. That was like, they have Iron Man, they have Captain America, they're just getting started. And then Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's like a talking raccoon in a tree. Wow.
That was your best choice.
Yeah. And it's like, all right, I'll give it a go. And within 5 minutes, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So they have done a great job. And I mean, I was never a comic book person growing up, so I know that there's a lot of, details that that a lot of the like hardcore comic book fans probably are wishing they would include. But I mean, I think they've taken a good swath of pulling from individual storylines and bringing them together to create something new. They've done a really good job at that, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, man. Well, we are right at about time. So
I'm surprised. I didn't think I'd have enough to talk about.
No worries. We just have to get the right subjects. That's it.
Yes,
and then we're set. So I'm assuming you're not too busy on social media anywhere?
No, don't really have a social media presence.
Yeah, I'm trying, but I don't right now. So it was funny. The first episode I put out with Jeff, it was like, I'm used to listening to a lot of Joe Rogan, and he's like, anytime somebody gets on Joe Rogan, it's like anyone who gets on there is like, oh, wow, you finally made it. And in this case, it was like, well, I have no one, so I'll just tag Jeff and hope that some of Jeff's friends see this. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I'm on Twitter at Adhocracy Cast. I've got a Facebook group, the Adhocracy Podcast. I'm on YouTube, all the podcast things, Spotify. I'm not on Apple yet. Apparently Apple's like the one if you're going to make it with the podcasting, which I'm not even, I could pick up sponsors already the way that, that Spotify has their stuff set up. They have this, they bought this, software called Anchor, where basically it directly uploads to Spotify, which is cool. But they, if you want to, you can pretty much instantly set up sponsorships. And I haven't even done that because I'm not really in it for the money. I'm more just like, part of this was like, seeing Jeff moving across the country. Like I'd kind of contemplated doing something like this. And it's like, yeah, that's a good way to check in, talk about SLS with him every once in a while. I'm sure I'm going to reach out to Kevin eventually too, once he kind of settles down, talk to him about his car that he's building and SLS as well. So it's more just a fun hobby right now. So I'm not too worried about all that yet.
Yeah.
We'll see. One step at a time. I'm having fun just trying to figure out how to make things sound better right now. I'm trying this podcast. I tried something new. So if anyone listening is like, wow, this sounds a lot better than last time, then it worked. And if it sounds a lot worse, then it didn't. So.
And for those of you from the future that are coming back to watch the original episodes after Luke's gone famous, welcome. And thanks for listening.
Yeah. All right. And on that note, we will wrap it up. So talk to you guys later.